good evening, what unfolded in the room that night was not what anyone had anticipated. Even before the first word was spoken, the atmosphere was tense. Cameras were already recording, reporters spoke in hushed tones, supporters from both sides appeared ready for a defining moment. There was a sense that something significant might happen. Few, however, expected the exchange to develop the way it did. Barron Trump entered the room calmly and with composure. He carried himself with the quiet confidence associated with a well known last name. He did not appear unsettled. On the contrary, he looked prepared and focused, as though he had arrived ready to make a clear and deliberate case. Across from him stood Jasmine Crockett. From the outset, it was evident that she approached the moment differently. The contrast between them could be felt almost immediately. Barron began with measured remarks. His phrasing was careful and structured. His delivery appeared polished. He spoke about legacy. He spoke about strength. He spoke about leadership. His tone remained steady, controlled, and deliberate. For the opening portion of the exchange, it seemed as though he was maintaining command of the discussion. His responses were composed and aligned with broader themes. He did not appear rushed. He did not appear shaken. Jasmine Crockett listened closely. She did not interrupt him. She did not react visibly to his statements. Her stillness, however, added to the tension in the room. Observers waited to see how she would respond. When she finally spoke, the tone of the exchange shifted noticeably. She did not raise her voice. She did not launch a personal attack. Instead, she asked a direct and focused question. She asked him to explain how the policy being discussed would help working families today. The emphasis on the word today changed the trajectory of the conversation. The room grew quiet. It was not a dramatic silence, but a gradual one. Attendees shifted in their seats. Barron paused briefly before responding. He began to speak about economic growth. He referenced opportunity. He spoke of long-term impact and broader outcomes. His answer remained aligned with the themes he had introduced earlier. Jasmine listened. Then she clarified her question. She said she was asking about the present, not about projections years into the future. She repeated the focus on immediate impact. In that moment, the exchange moved away from general principles and toward specifics. Barron attempted to regain momentum. He referenced statistics. He spoke in broad terms about overall trends and large-scale benefits. His language remained expansive. But Jasmine introduced detailed data. She cited specific figures. She referenced dates. She pointed to voting records and direct quotations. She connected each of these elements to her original question. In the emotion was nessa place developing not include funding for small business relief. She said it did not address healthcare costs. She said it did not reduce grocery prices. She then repeated her question about who would benefit immediately. The reaction in the room was subtle but noticeable. There were no loud cheers. Instead, there were expressions of recognition. Some supporters who had appeared confident earlier seemed uncertain. The discussion was no longer centered on ideology. It was centered on measurable impact. Barron shifted his approach. He spoke about patriotism. He spoke about national strength. He spoke about restoring confidence. Jasmine did not pursue those themes. She returned to her initial point. She said she was still waiting for an answer to the question she had asked. At that stage, the exchange began to show signs of strain. Barron's sentences became longer and more complex. He revisited earlier points. Certain phrases were repeated. The clarity that marked his opening remarks began to soften. Jasmine remained steady. She did not use dramatic gestures. She did not display visible frustration. She maintained a composed presence. Then came a pivotal moment. Barron suggested that a broader strategy was being misunderstood. Jasmine responded firmly but calmly, asking him to explain that strategy clearly. The room grew still again. The discussion had moved beyond policy details. It was now about credibility and clarity. Barron paused. The pause was brief but noticeable. In debates, hesitation can carry weight. Jasmine did not interrupt the silence. She waited. The pause extended slightly longer than expected. Observers watched closely. Barron resumed speaking, but his tone had changed. It was less assured. He accused Jasmine of misrepresenting his words. She replied that she was quoting him directly. Another pause followed. The dynamic in the room shifted again. What had initially appeared to be a confident presentation now seemed more uncertain. Jasmine remained composed. Barron attempted to steady himself. He adjusted his posture. He straightened his jacket. He offered a small smile before leaning back toward the microphone. He characterized her questioning as political theater. A few scattered claps came from the back of the room. Jasmine repeated the phrase political theater and stated that she had asked for clarity. The word clarity lingered in the air. Barron pivoted again. He spoke about leadership experience. He emphasized strength under pressure. He discussed vision for the future. The more he focused on future outcomes, however, the more the question of present impact remained unresolved. Jasmine allowed him to continue speaking. She did not interrupt. When he concluded that portion of his remarks, she delivered a concise statement. She said that vision without accountability is branding. The reaction in the room was immediate, though not loud. Murmurs moved across the audience. For the first time, Barron appeared visibly unsure. He began to respond quickly, but his words overlapped. He corrected himself mid-sentence. He restarted his explanation. The composure of his opening statement seemed diminished. Jasmine narrowed her focus further. She posed a direct question. She asked, what would change next month for a single mother working two jobs under his proposal? She emphasized next month, not next year. The discussion had become personal and immediate. Barron began to speak about tax reform. He mentioned reducing burdens. He referenced economic stimulation. However, he did not describe how those elements would translate into immediate change. After a brief pause, Jasmine stated quietly that it was not an answer. The exchange continued in this measured but increasingly intense pattern. Each question sought specificity. Each response returned to broader themes. The atmosphere in the room remained controlled, yet undeniably altered from the start of the evening. As the discussion progressed, the contrast between prepared messaging and persistent questioning became clearer. The cameras captured every expression, every pause, every shift in tone. The audience watched closely. And as the first phase of this remarkable exchange concluded, it was evident that the conversation had moved beyond rehearsed statements. It had entered a deeper examination of accountability and clarity.